All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Chasin the Rush podcast. I'm your host, Colin Metzger. And it's been a minute since I've hopped on the podcast, but it's been pretty slow. I've been in the middle of cranberry harvest, so it's been early mornings and late work days. So it's been hard to get out in the stand. And then I had drill last weekend. We had a 4-day drill weekend, yeah. And then this coming weekend, I have drill as well. But it's that time of the year where it's starting to cool off. The rut is on. Unfortunately, this week it does seem to be higher temperatures, but tomorrow, Thursday, Halloween, it's supposed to be cooling off quite a bit. I was out driving around tonight and I did see quite a few deer. So I'm going to try and get out in the stand tomorrow before I have to go to drill on Friday night. But it's starting to get me even more excited. Haven't been able to hunt a whole lot, but now that the rut is here, I'm feeling that fire under my butt, and it's time to go. It's time to get in the stand and make it happen. So Todd's going to hop on the podcast with me. Well, I should say he hopped on the podcast with me last night. I'm recording this the day after because I was having some audio difficulties last night trying to get a single track audio. But anyway, Todd's going to hop on the podcast, and he's had some success. So we're going to talk about that. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. We can get into it if you want. I'll do like an intro outside of this. So, you've had some success in the last week. We'll get to that. Do a update on where we are in the season. It's October 9th, the day we're filming this. So I'll hopefully have it out by Friday. But it's been a really warm October, which is kind of unusual. It's warmer than last October, which I didn't think was going to be the case.
Mm-hmm.
Based on how August was. August was pretty mild, and September got really hot, and now October has been pretty warm. But from the cameras on the property, deer movement is starting to pick up. A lot of daylight pictures. How many new bucks do you think we've seen in the last week? Probably
3 or 4.
Yeah.
We've got 2 more shooters for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The buck we call Holyfield, he hasn't been around in probably almost a week. He was, the night I shot mine, he was on camera that night too. We had a lot of bucks on camera that night, the 23rd, the night I shot mine.
Yeah. It always seems to be the case that like the one target buck that we want to shoot kind of disappears right as the action picks up, like Ghost.
Yep.
Then he occasionally showed up.
Yeah. This morning until about 9:30, the cameras were very active. Mm-hmm. I sent you that picture of that buck that was laying in the water hole. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, I don't know if you sent that to Quinn at all, but I sent that to Quinn, and I was like, you need to hunt this weekend. If you want to shoot something, like, you need to hunt. Because they're moving right now. It's kind of crappy weather this week. Yeah. Today was 80 here.
Yeah.
But
Thursday and Friday are supposed to be good. Sean's going up after work, I think, on Thursday. And then he's going to sit all day Friday. And then your mom and I are going up on Friday.
Okay.
The weather's not going to be very good for Saturday and Sunday, but I mean, we'll go out and sit. I don't think we'll probably get out into the stand by, 8 or 9 and then just sit all day, bring our lunch. It's going to be mid to high 60s. So I'm not going to tromp through the woods at, 4:30 in the morning or whatever, especially since we got to double sit everything. It's going to take some time. I'd rather do it during the daylight because I've got to be able to get up alongside a tree with her. So,
yep. Yeah, it's not easy your first time trying to get up in a saddle.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to hunt Wednesday night and Thursday. Wednesday probably won't be that good, but Friday I'm going to head up to the UP, watch a hockey game before drill the next day, so I won't be hunting. But hopefully I can see something Thursday. I'd like to just shoot a doe at anything at this point.
Yeah, they should be moving Thursday, I would think.
I would think, but my camera locations, it's just dead. I've had 1 or 2 deer in the last week on camera, but I think I'm just going to shut them off because it's not really telling me anything except for deer moving. There's no pattern to them.
Yeah.
So, kind of disappointing, even though I looked and looked and it seems like they're on like the best spots on the state land, but I think it's just so big. It's hard to get them in one area. Yeah. But you and I went hunting 2 weekends ago, I think that was.
Yeah, I'll have to look back on the calendar.
Yeah, we did our first double sit. I brought my saddle and filmed you, and it was pretty windy that night.
I think we did the 13th.
Yep, that sounds about right. Yeah. I think it was supposed to be a good night. Like, it was a 99% day.
Yeah.
It was just so windy.
It was nice to get out. And then I didn't sit again until the 23rd.
Was that your first time sitting this season?
Mm-hmm.
I'd sat a few times before that. You sat with Mom.
Oh, yeah.
Ground blind.
Yeah, we sat in the ground blind, and then I sat with you. And then, so I sat 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a weapon, obviously, when I was sitting with your mom, though.
Yeah. And then I'd sat a few times before that. While we were at deer camp, I sat in state land that we've never looked at, and it's only like 10 minutes from the camper. And on the map, it looks really good. It's really diverse habitat, but I didn't see anything while I was out there. I ended up losing one of my knee pads. And then before that, I sat the county state land once or twice and walked up on a doe, jumped another 2 does another time, but haven't seen anything while sitting yet. So that kind of brings us up to now, last week. You want to talk about that? You went up Wednesday night?
Yeah, I went up. I left Wednesday morning and got to camp about 9:30 or 10 o'clock. By the time I got everything set up and shot my bow, I shot my bow for probably 20 minutes. By the time I got dressed and got in the stand, it was about 20 minutes to 3. So when I sat at the ditch pinch, and I did not see any deer, just a lot of raccoons and squirrels. And then about 5:30, I saw movement up in the middle of the woods, kind of. It was actually kind of on the back side. Remember where we had the stand in the middle of the woods? Like, it was kind of on that point.
Yep.
So behind that, I kept seeing movement around where I'd see like saplings and stuff move. And I thought it was squirrels like jumping back and forth and stuff. But and I'll tell the story after we get into it more, what it actually was. But then I kept hearing things over there. And then probably 10 minutes later, I saw that it was a buck coming my way. And then I saw that it was a good buck. And so I stood up, and he kind of meandered through, and he kept coming. And then he got up to the ditch. He was probably 15 yards from the licking branch. And then he paralleled the ditch and came right to the licking branch. And he snapped his head up and looked right at me. So I thought I was busted, but I had my face mask and everything on. And he was pawing the scrape, staring at me the whole time he was pawing. And then he ran his antlers in the licking branch a few times. And then he came in and took a little bit of a drink. And then he kind of walked over past and was nosing around in the woods. And then that's when he was perfectly quartering away shot. And I didn't want to aim at his off shoulder. So I kind of held back because I wanted to make sure that I got the arrow all the way through him, and the shot felt good or whatever. I watched my fletching and the loom knock go through him. And he bolted off about 20 yards, and he stood there, and I'm waiting for him to tip over. and he's just standing there super still. And I see my arrow stuck in the ground. You could tell because I have those the white
veins.
wraps. I got the white wraps and they were covered in blood. So I'm watching and I'm watching and I'm watching and he's not tipping over. So then he started
What time?
That was
what
at
time did you shoot him?
5:55.
Okay.
To be exact. So he walked away. You could tell he was hurting bad. So I'm just waiting for him to fall over. And then he kind of meandered down back towards your mom's food plot, not where I could still see him really good. And then all of a sudden he just stopped and he was kind of staring as he was looking forward. And again, that's when I thought he was going to drop.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just laid down. So then his head was kind of behind a tree. So I got my binoculars out and I got the shooting rail set up so I could just watch with the binoculars because I still probably had 20 minutes before dark. And I kept watching him and his head was up the whole entire time. Then while he was laying there, a small buck ran through the woods kind of in front of him and was heading down towards the ditch.
Okay.
And then he stood up. My buck stood up and I'm going, great. And he walked over about 10 yards toward where that other buck was at. And then he laid down again.
Mm-hmm.
So I kept watching him in my binocs and kept watching. And then it got too dark. Even with good binoculars, I couldn't see him anymore. So I waited until pitch dark. And I packed up all my stuff, didn't use a headlamp or anything. And I just got out and went back to the camper. So I texted back and forth with buddies and I explained to them what happened. And they all think I got liver. But with the angle, I knew I had to have gotten some lung because there was no way that where the arrow went in. And then when we ended up finding the deer, I was right. And when I gutted him out, I did get I got the top of the backside top of it would be his right lung.
Okay.
And I got liver and then I actually got some guts too. So because of how sharp the angle was.
Yeah. So how long from the first time you saw him to the time you shot him, how long of an encounter was that?
Probably. It seemed like it was forever, but it was probably only like 15 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I got a good look at him. And so, like I said, it ended up being our buck named Toothpick, but his toothpick was gone. So he either was fighting, he's got a big scar on his neck, so I'm guessing he broke it off fighting. Because when I found the deer, he's on it by his ear, he's got a big bloody scar right here underneath his chin.
Okay.
So he's fighting or sparring or whatever. We actually have a couple bucks on camera that are broke off already, so I'm guessing that they're fighting pretty good.
Yeah.
So, so I got back to the camp, talked to your mom about it too, and then talked to buddies, and they said to wait. Your mom was saying that maybe we should go look at it at like 10 o'clock. We'll look for it about 10 o'clock because we were worried about coyotes. But I decided to go to sleep, and then I got up like I was going to go hunting on the next morning, had coffee. Sean went out hunting. I waited until it was good and light, probably 7:45, and snuck down in there, went over and grabbed my arrow and saw that the arrow was dark red blood, no guts, nothing on it. So, and then blood right away. I was able to find the blood trail right away. So was bleeding a lot.
Okay.
So I followed the blood trail to where he laid down the first time. And then there was a good blood in his bed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I followed over to where his second bed was, and there was good blood. And then he obviously wasn't. I expected him to be there laying there dead, and he wasn't. And I couldn't figure out. Normally you can see, especially there was a frosty morning. Normally you can kind of see how the leaves are kicked up when they're walking and kind of see what direction he went after he got up out of his bed, but there was nothing.
Nothing.
And then knowing that he was hurt, he would have had to go through 3 super, super deep ditches to get out of that point. So I walked the complete perimeter of the ditches, looking down in the ditch first to see if he fell down in the ditch.
Okay.
because I couldn't find any blood.
Yeah.
So I did that first, and then every piece of cover that was in that point, I walked over by every fallen down log, everywhere. Couldn't find him.
Mhm.
I was walking the backside ditch behind your mom's food plot, and there's thick brush up by the food plot. And I was on the other side of it, not on the food plot side of the ditch. And I saw something that was kind of white, but I stared at it for a while and I go, no, that's nothing. So I just kind of dismissed it. So now it's about 9:45 by the time I've done all this and looked all that whole entire area. So I go back and get some breakfast, wait for Sean to get out of the stand. So at this time now I'm freaking out because it's a giant deer. So I got on my phone and was looking for tracking dogs. And then I got on Drone Deer Recovery's website,
Mm-hmm.
typed in my zip code. It gave me the names of 3 pilots that were in the area, and I texted all 3 of them. The first one that texted me back was a kid up from the Eau Claire area, as a high school kid, actually. And he said, well, he was in high school, so he couldn't come until after football practice, so he wouldn't even be able to be down there until like 7:30.
Okay.
So at night. So, and I was fine with that. But then there was a guy from Spring Green that got back to me, and he wanted to see the arrow. So I had a picture of the arrow so he could see the blood that was on it. And I took pictures of the bloody beds
Yeah.
before I knew this guy wanted to see it. So he looked at the arrow and immediately said it was probably a liver shot, because I showed him the trail camera picture of the deer standing there before I shot it, because he
Okay.
was standing in front of the camera. So it had the exact angle.
Yeah.
And then I edited my text picture and showed him where I hit the deer, where the entrance was.
Okay.
So he goes, well, I'm trying to recover another deer from a guy that's in the different direction. So he goes, I think we should wait until after close. I can be there at like 6:45. He goes, I think we should wait just to make sure, which is obviously going to be 24 hours here. I'm thinking the deer's already dead.
Yeah.
And that it's laying there rotting. So, but I wanted to recover it no matter what happens. I owed it to the deer, especially since we had tons of history with this deer. I didn't think we had tons of history because I didn't know it with toothpick until after we recovered him.
Mm-hmm.
So Sean and I had breakfast. We went out to the fence line camera that we've been having problems with and got that all taken care of. It locked up because it was downloading the firmware, and so the camera completely locked up. So I had to figure out how to reset the camera and all that, and that it wasn't really that hard. After like its 3rd cycle through, it actually worked, and now it's working again. But when we got done with that, we went back to camp, and the guy said to not go out in the woods and keep pushing this deer around. But something told me that we needed to go look one more time.
Mm-hmm.
So we walked down past the pines stand down that trail, and then we walked over to the ditch by the ditch pinch, and I walked down one side of the ditch. Sean walked down the other. And then when we got down around the point, I kind of climbed down in the ditch and walked the ditch all the way up behind your mom's food plot and came out of the ditch right there up that steep bank.
Okay.
Sean stayed on the other side of the ditch from your mom's food plot. And I walked around the point. It's all brush. The brush is all up against the food plot. And once you get into the woods a little bit, it thins out. Anyway, I'm walking right on the edge of the thick brush and the open woods, probably 15 yards away from the ditch. And I come around the corner, and then there's the deer, but it had its head down facing away from me, and I could see its rack, and I'm going, yeah, I found him. And then all of a sudden it picks its head up and snaps it around and looks at me. So it's not dead. It's panting like crazy, but it's not moving. It can't get up. It's trying to get up and it can't. So
Okay.
I whisper over because we don't have a weapon, which was stupid that I didn't have my bow with me. So I didn't want to leave the deer because I didn't want it to get up or whatever. So Sean goes back to the camper to get my bow.
Yeah.
So he's booking it. He actually made it back down round trip in like 15 minutes. And he's sneaking up to me with my bow. He hands me my release, and I reach and grab my bow. And as soon as I reach and grab my bow, the deer stood up, wobbling around, and starts plowing through the brush up towards your mom's food plot. So now I'm freaking out that it's going to run, and I kind of snaked my way up thinking it's going to go into the food plot, and it didn't. So as soon as I got up in the food plot, I said, this is stupid. We're going to push him over into Dalton's, and then we're never going to get him.
Yeah.
So we both went up into the food plot, sat down. I texted the guy, the pilot, and told him what happened. And of course, he was super happy with me that I pushed the deer. So anyway, he says, I'll still be there 6:05. It was 1:48 and the buck was still alive, to give you a time frame.
Yep.
So we go back up, go into the camper or whatever. Just we're shooting the crap. And then Sean wanted to go out and sit. So he sat on the other side of the farm because the wind was going to be okay, because he's obviously wants to still keep hunting. Because we obviously at this point, ditch pinch and the pine stand are garbage because we just walked around in it for 4 hours that day.
Mm-hmm.
So the pilot shows up. Of course, it's pouring down rain, thundering and lightning. It was just awful. And he says, well, I can fly in the rain rather. So the rules, I had to sign a waiver telling him that it's my deer. We did. The waiver had all these questions, and it basically stated that I shot the deer. We did everything in our power to recover it normally by tracking it and whatnot. And then they have to have 100% visual of the drone at all times. So he couldn't just fly from our camper and fly over and look for it. So we had to actually go over to Quinn's food plot and pull into the that was what he thought was the best spot. Okay. So we pulled into the food plot with his truck, and he got his generator out and his lights and his launching pad and everything. And I couldn't look at the screen while he was looking for the deer. Yeah. We couldn't obviously have any weapons with us. We couldn't be in camouflage. We couldn't be in anything that remotely looked like we were hunting. So that's what I guess the DNR rules are.
Okay.
So he flies up, he launches, and he goes up in the air, and he scans, and he found it within 5 minutes. And once he found it with the thermal, he hovered over the top of it, turned the thermal camera off, and that's when he came over to me since he found it. And he put the regular camera on with the spotlight and lowered down to the treetop height, and you could see the buck plain as day laying on its side dead. So I'm guessing since he was laying behind your mom's food plot for probably hours and hours and hours, he clotted up and stopped bleeding. But when we jumped him, it probably shifted a bunch of things inside of him, and he started bleeding again.
Yeah, probably a good thing then.
Yeah. And he probably, when we gutted it, when I moved him, before we gutted him out, he was pretty stiff. Okay. So, and that was, we recovered him just before 8:00. So from 1:48 to 8:00, he died in that span. But when I gutted him, I mean, the blood inside of him was hot. Okay. So, I mean, it wasn't like forever, but
yeah.
So yeah, then Sean and we gutted him out. We pulled him up into the food plot and loaded him up, and then got him back to camp and hung him up. And I rinsed him and rinsed him and rinsed him and rinsed him. And we went to a Quick Trip in Boscobel and got a bunch of 20-pound bags of ice. And I had them great big wire ties underneath the camper, and we just packed him full of ice and strapped the wire ties around the ice bags to hold them tight around him. It got down to 45.
Yeah.
But still, when I was skinning him out the next day to cape him and everything, his neck and his front legs were pretty warm, even with all the ice on him. But I got him all quartered up. I put him in big bags and stuff, and he's obviously in the freezer. I haven't thawed it out to go through everything. But so yeah, that was it was a long, long, long day.
Yeah, so it ended up being what, like 26 hours, you said?
Yeah, 26 hours. To recover him.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to me to think the shot was not a bad shot. I'm still, after gutting him out, seeing exactly where my entrance and exit hole was. I don't know how. I'm not surprised that he lived a little bit, but I'm surprised that he didn't die in the night.
Yeah.
because I did get lungs. I completely went through his liver, got lungs, and got the entrance, got a little bit of gut.
It just goes to show just how crazy, how tough these deer are.
Yeah.
Especially those big mature bucks that, yeah, they can survive a
Yeah.
lot. That's crazy.
Because my entrance went in like in the middle of the rib cage, like the bulge on the outside of the deer,
Yep.
and the arrow came out in front of his off shoulder, behind his off shoulder.
Okay.
So if you look at the angle, like Sean and I were looking at him when he was hanging up on our pole. I have no idea, and I'm shooting the mega meats. Put a huge hole in and a huge hole out. I mean, and then, like I said, I had great blood until his second bed.
So I can pull it up on Tacticam. I'll share the screenshot and maybe point it up that way. So,
Yep, that's right before I shot him.
yeah, that's 5:55 there.
Yep. And that's probably when the arrow was actually coming. So if you have your pointer, so a little bit further back than that, right there is where it went in.
Okay.
Because where we move the stand, if where the stand's at now, it's quite a bit over. It's off to the right more.
Left. Okay, it is off to the right.
It's off to the right of where it used to be. So he was, if you see where his leg is right there, his off leg,
Yep.
I didn't want to shoot right behind I would have liked not to be back as far as I was, but I didn't want to tuck it right behind the armpit there because I was afraid of his off shoulder. And again, I don't shoot a lot of poundage, and I know if he's stuck in the off shoulder, maybe again, I'm thinking way too much about this, but I wanted to make sure I got the arrow all the way through him because, like I said, this is the biggest buck I've ever shot. So,
yeah, I feel like you do tend to overanalyze the shot in the moment because that's happened the last couple times when you shot a compound bow. And that's why I was thinking if you film everything, it might help you slow down. But you didn't end up filming this hunt.
No, I did not, because I would have been filming with I didn't even get any video of him just because, again, I don't have a camera arm. All I would have had would be my cell phone. So, but yeah, and you're right. I do way overthink. That's most people I'm sure would have just threaded, because the way his shoulder blade was right there, most people would have just slid it right in there. But yeah, so I went in like directly in the middle between his front leg and his back leg, but I was up higher than that. So
okay,
I was up, no, not quite that high, like right in the middle of his body, right there. And it was and it went through. So if you see where his head is right now, the arrow was stuck in the bank right directly in line with his head. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's a pretty good angle on it. It seems like you would have, with that angle, because I'm thinking about where that stand is, seems like you would have hit more.
Yep.
Than just liver. Huh. Crazy.
Because yeah, when I pulled his lungs out, obviously the heart was completely intact, or he wouldn't have lived for 26 hours.
Yeah.
His lungs, the lungs on from the right side were all kind of like frayed, just a little bit on the corner. It was weird.
Okay. Yeah, there's a better look at him.
So that's when he was looking up at me, and actually after that picture, he paused and then goes into the licking branch.
Okay. Huh. Meanwhile,
he kept looking up at me there. I didn't even try drawing on him there. I waited until he walked over and was pawing that right there.
Okay.
And then he turned his head. He was looking back up towards the pines, and then he looked at me again, and then he looked up at the pines again. So that when he turned his head, there is when I drew back on him. But you can see from that one picture, the one before, that one right there, you can see how he walked from the other side of the ditch and came up this way.
Yep. Okay. Huh. Yeah, and meanwhile, while all this is happening, I'm at drill down in downstate Michigan, and I didn't know any of this until Friday morning. It was 5 my time, I think.
Yeah.
So it must have been like 4 your time because I was in Eastern time.
Yeah.
It was
Because
early.
I got up early and then I was having coffee and I was texting you. I didn't text anybody really, just because obviously I want to recover the deer. I don't want to tell people I shot this great big deer and not have it yet. So,
Yeah.
I knew you'd be, if I would have told you on Wednesday night, you would have been worried about it all night long that we're not finding it or whatever. So I'm a believer. I mean, granted, it cost me $200 for the drone, but it's any deer, even if it's not a giant buck, but any deer's worth doing all you can to recover them. So,
oh yeah, definitely.
I don't regret doing that at all. It's just, it amazes me how long and how tough it was when we found the deer. I totally expected that it was going to be, with it not dying, I thought it was going to be just a full 100% gut shot. But then when I looked at, again, the arrow, I've gut shot deer before with arrows and there's blood on it, but it's usually guts and grease and it's just nasty.
Yeah.
The arrow's nasty.
Yep.
So
it's still a cool story. Cool, you got to bring a drone into it, even though it made the whole thing more expensive than it needed to be. But
yeah, and then $25 for the shoulder mount on top of that. So
yeah. So how much did the drone end up being?
It was 200.
200. Okay, that's not.
He's a first year drone pilot.
Okay.
So his prices are inexpensive. The high school kid wanted 350 just to come down, and then he wanted another 100 if he found it.
Okay.
So 450. I don't know what other people are charging.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's something I want to do. I'm taking the drone course right now so I can get my drone pilot's license, but
yeah,
it'd be cool to get into. But I did just see, or maybe you told me about it, that they just banned the DJI drones, which is unfortunate because that's like the main drone that everyone uses.
Yeah.
Because they're good drones, but I guess it's like a security issue to the government. But the drone I have right now, it's a DJI, and the action camera I use, and then just the microphones I just got are all DJI. So it's kind of disappointing because they make some good products. But
yeah, I reached out to the company that sells them because they're all out of stock, and I didn't hear back from them as far as what their plans were or if they're going to go with a different drone. Because I know the guy that builds the drone kits. If you want the drone deer recovery guy buys the drones and then he builds them, puts what the cameras and stuff he wants on them, and then he sells them as a package.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he's going to do drone wise moving forward. So, and that's what the drone pilot told me as well, that he's freaking out because if something happens to his drone, he doesn't know if he's going to be able to get it fixed.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's going to be causing a lot of issues because those drones, I think they're the main ones too that they use for spraying crops as well as the DJI. Obviously, any drones that are already in the U.S. are fine. Like the drone I have is DJI, but it's going to make it a lot harder to get parts and services and everything. But yeah,
it was totally cool to watch. I was shocked at how fast he was able to find it.
Yeah,
it ended up being, it was laying on the other side of the food plot towards the Remington Hill stands.
Okay.
So when I jumped it probably went 150 yards.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Because that's what he said when he found it. He goes, it's laying right on the side of the food plot. And I go, well, that's where we jumped it. He goes, and then when he showed me where it was at, then I go, oh, it's on the complete other side of the food plot. But it was cool when I saw that it was my deer, obviously, because there's no way it was anybody else's deer because of how our property is or whatever. He clicked on it and got the waypoints or whatever. But then when we got back in his truck or whatever, he has something where he's got a QR code And then I scanned his QR code on his phone to my phone, and it popped right up on Google Maps.
Okay.
So we were able to walk right to it.
Yeah.
Like literally, it was like a foot away from the bubble. That's how
Okay.
accurate it was.
Huh.
With us having bad cell service up there, I was shocked that it was that accurate.
Yeah. Huh.
So
Then did you end up taking any pictures with it? Any nice pictures?
yes, I've got
Okay.
a lot. I don't know if you can get them onto your computer. I can send you one or two.
Yeah, if you email it, I can pull it up through an email.
All
Did you
right.
do like a interview at all
No,
behind? No.
I didn't do nothing.
You said you wanted to make all this content, and you're
I know.
making it hard for me to make content.
That's why I said I'd be. I sat in the tree after I shot it. I was shaking pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, you should have done at least an interview there. Definitely.
Yeah, he would have. The
Definitely
deer would
behind the deer. After you got the
another pose. Again, it's not as big as your big one that's over your left shoulder, but again, it's by far my biggest. It's bigger than my one from 3 years ago.
yeah.
Because I compared the racks, and obviously it's only an 8-pointer, and my other one's a 10-pointer, but it's a good deer.
Yeah, I'd still be happy about it. It's a nice buck, and you said it was not. Well, he's definitely bigger. Toothpick is bigger than we thought.
Yes, because his body, and I'll let you put the picture up
Yeah.
from. Do you have the picture of him hanging?
Oh, I can download that one too.
Because he's with his rack all the way at the crossbar of our buck pole. He was almost hanging on the ground.
Okay.
So he was a giant bodied deer. And that's why I didn't think it was toothpick when it was coming through the woods, because it was so wide. That's
weird.
crazy.
Okay, is it better now? Is it okay? Yeah. So it's a little blurry. Yeah. I really wish you would have done a little interview.
Yeah.
Got me something. Well,
hopefully I'll get you some doe footage this year. I know that's obviously, it would have been totally cool if you were in camp and been able to record the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, and if Mom gets something, that'd be nice to film this weekend. And I'll pull up the other one too. Here's the other photo. Yeah, he's a nice buck.
Again, I didn't score it. The taxidermist, I took it to, I didn't take it to Josh this time. I took it to a gal the gal that does Blake's, and try her just to try. And not be, Josh does great work and I love all this stuff, but it's just a matter of getting it back faster.
Yeah.
So waiting 12 months or more is a long time. She tans all of her own hides, so that's how she gets her turnarounds, 4 to 5 months.
Okay.
So
Share that. Yeah.
He was a tank. And like I said, Sean and I had everything we could to get him in the back. I thought I was going to have to get the wind shot out of the front of the UTV to get him in the back. Granted, we're old men, but still, with no guts in him, he was still, I'm not saying he was 200 dressed, but he's high. He was high 190s for sure.
Yeah.
And when I skinned him, he was full. His fat was ridiculous. So that's why I was telling Sean, the winter could be a rough one this year, because for being October and all the fat that he had on him, it was crazy.
Yeah. See, I thought it was going to be a really cold fall and definitely a cold winter based on how our summer kind of went. But I mean, so far our fall's been pretty warm. So we'll see. But the deer are still moving. Just need to go out and sit now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was at drill. It was a long drill weekend. And then obviously whenever I get a text that someone shot a deer, I just want to be in the woods, so that doesn't help.
Yeah.
But it's too warm this week to really hunt every night, so I'm going to try and just hunt Wednesday and Thursday, and then I have drill again this weekend, unfortunately. So next week, I'm planning on working Monday, and then the rest of the week and the following weekend, I'll be hunting. So,
are you going to come to camp after work on Monday, or are you going to wait until Tuesday morning?
I think I'll probably come Monday night.
Yeah, that would be good.
That way I can go hunt as much as possible, and then Friday night I'm going to go to the bull riding in La Crosse, and then I'll be back on the weekend.
Okay. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week's supposed to be good. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
It's going to be good. It's going to be in the high 20s, low 30s for lows, and then highs in the low to mid 50s.
Okay. Yeah, I'll probably hunt Friday morning, and then I won't hunt Friday night because I'll be the bull riding. And then I'll come back Saturday morning, and we'll hunt Saturday night, Sunday. So hopefully I get something during that time, or someone gets something that I could film, get some content.
Yeah,
so.
Sean's going to sit all day on Friday. He's second guessing our decision to come home because of what we saw on camera this morning, but it was 82 degrees today. It's supposed to be 79 tomorrow. Thursday and Friday are going to be good. That's what I told him when we canceled the week, because he's going somewhere for his anniversary on the 8th, so he can only hunt until the 7th.
Okay.
So I told him, I said, why don't you just go back Wednesday night after work? But he's never had to deal with a deer by himself before, so he doesn't want to be there without me. So that's why he's going Thursday night, because if he gets one, he'll just leave it lay until your mom and I get there on Friday afternoon. So,
okay. So,
which I don't even understand why he'd even leave it lay. He says, well, I can't get it out by myself. And I go, you got the deer cart, gut it, roll it up on the deer cart, and just take your time. Go 20 yards at a time if you have to. I mean, I've had to do it. You've had to do it. I mean, you've drug deer like a mile before.
Yeah. Well, Quinn's doe that he shot last year, that was like 3/4 of a mile. It was something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he did that with a torn meniscus, and me and him handed it off. But
yeah.
I meant to ask, did he see anything that night you shot yours?
Yes. He sat all day that day. And he saw 3 does and 2 bucks. Nothing, no big bucks though.
Okay.
And then he hunted the fence line stand that you and I put up later in the season, the hang on, in the morning. And he saw, what was it? I think he saw 4 bucks, all little ones.
Okay.
So he hasn't seen a shooter from the stand. And like I said, I saw 2 deer the night of mine that I shot mine, and it was the big one first. And then I saw, like I said, a little scrubby 4 or 6 pointer running through the woods. But I thought for sure that after I shot my deer and I was waiting in the stand for so long that I was going to have deer coming to the water hole and I was going to be trapped in the stand for hours. So, and I didn't wear much clothes because it was warm when I went out. So I was actually getting cold because all I had was my pullover sweatshirt with the mask on it. And then I had an Osseo base layer top. That was it. I didn't have a vest, jacket, nothing.
Yeah. So you guys were there till Sunday at camp? Because you guys went to the Whitewater Platteville game and then came back and just kind of hung out.
Yeah, we left pretty early on Sunday morning because Chloe and Silas wanted to get going. So we went back and we ordered Chinese food and had like a early supper, and then they left at like 3, I think.
Okay.
So we left
Saturday?
Yeah, on Sunday.
On Sunday, okay.
Your mom, Chloe and Silas drove to our house on Friday night, and then they left to come to camp at 8:30 Friday night. Got to camp at 11. We shot the crap for a little bit, had some snacks, and then went to bed. We were up at 7 because we left to go to the Platteville game by 9.
Okay.
So nobody hunted on Saturday and nobody hunted on Sunday. So Sean hunted Friday morning and Friday afternoon.
Okay. So it's been resting for a little bit before you guys get there on Thursday night.
Yeah. And, the way the winds are going to blow Saturday and Sunday, we have to go into very low impact stands for those 2 days, unfortunately. So we're not going to booger anything up this weekend either because it's southeast winds all weekend, which we just have perimeter evening type stands to hunt for that wind.
Yep.
So that's what I was telling your mom. Like, I will sleep in because your mom's going to stay the night on Sunday night and just drive to work Monday morning from camp.
Okay.
So her and I can have 2 really nice long sits, one on Saturday and one on Sunday. So,
okay.
And like I said, if she gets a shot at an adult doe or a buck or whatever, I'll have her shoot whatever. So,
yeah, definitely.
And then, like I was telling, I'm not going to shoot any, I'm not going to shoot any does off the property until possibly gun season. So when you're hunting state land, I'll hunt state land with you. And we can see if we can't. Obviously, it's going to be the peak of the rut, so you might get a crack at a nice buck. But
yeah,
I'll shoot whatever does I can find. Hopefully, the other guys hunting on state land that we might come across don't get mad that we're shooting does. But
yeah, it's kind of just what you deal with state land, though. So.
Yeah, I might go up and scope out where to go. I'll probably do that Monday because it's supposed to be warm and rainy.
Okay.
I'm probably going to go scope out that MFL land that's up north of our land. It's just to see what the access is like.
Okay. So you're going to be there Thursday through the following weekend, or?
I'll be there. I'm going up. Me and your mom are going up Friday night. She's following me in her car, and I'm staying until the 10th.
Okay.
So we'll be there. You'll be able to hunt. I mean, again, if Sean ends up tagging out and one of our big targets ain't killed yet, I mean, don't feel like you can't hunt on our property, obviously. So
yeah,
we've got Slim showed up this morning, that great big mammoth of a bodied 10-pointer that's got the real thin rack, but the real wide, but real thin. He showed up this morning at 3:38.
Yeah, I saw that.
And he's a massive bodied deer. Massive.
Yeah. Well, I might end up doing that, even though I said I wasn't going to hunt the property, but with how my season has gone so far and just drill weekends, I just want a deer, something in the freezer for some meat. And then, when Emma's coming down on the weekend of the 8th, I told her we could sit in a ground blind because she wants to hunt with me. So not many places that we can actually do that besides the ground blinds or ground zero.
Yeah. And we'll come back the weekend after the 10th. Gun season this year isn't until, let me look.
It's the last week of November.
Yeah, so it's as late as it ever can be. So I think let me see here. So yeah, gun season opens on the 23rd. So the weekend of the 16th, if you don't have a deer yet and your mom, I'll go back and hunt again.
Yeah.
Because again, the rut will be winding down by the 16th. Although, like I said, most of Blake's deer that he's got on the wall, he shot between the 11th and the 16th of November.
Mm-hmm.
He likes that late. He likes that late part. He likes when he thinks the biggest deer rut the longest, and they are still searching for those last does late.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up killing a monster every year that time.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever hunted that long because I feel like we usually take a little break before gun season.
Yeah, we're usually done.
Yeah. So
the way that
it'll be interesting if I don't get anything and actually hunt that time frame, which I probably will, even if it's just to shoot a doe around here on county land or something.
What was I going to say? Next year's vacation time, the way everything falls, Sean's going to just take 2 weeks off and then just hunt the weather.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to tentatively tell my builders what my plan is, and I'm going to do the same. I'm not going to go. I'm usually burnt out at deer camp after about 4 days, so I'm not going to go for 7-8 days in a row anymore. I'm going to just look at the HuntWise app and just bank like 2 weeks where I can just kind of do what I want to do. and then just go and hunt by weather. I mean, it's only a 2-hour drive to camp, so it's not like it's awful. It's not like we're driving 5 hours.
Yeah.
And it'll
people
keep
do that.
Yeah, and it'll keep pressure off the property too. Actually, Eric he drew Iowa this year, which I didn't know until today when him and I were texting. He was leaving tomorrow morning to go to Iowa for 4 days. He was there 2 days last week.
Okay.
And then he came home to work, and then now he's going to go and come home Sunday. But he's got place to hunt though. So his brother's wife's family own a huge farm over in Iowa somewhere. So
okay.
I haven't even thought about putting in for Iowa just because if you don't have a place to hunt, I mean, yeah, there's plenty of state land over there, but
yeah,
you'd have to make a lot of trips. I guess you could go over there and hunt, scout in the spring and get a game plan together if you know you're going to draw.
Mm-hmm.
Blake
I probably
drew
should
this year.
start putting in.
Yeah, it takes, I think it's 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Blake drew this year too, but he didn't take his draw because of where he was going to hunt. The EHD was really bad.
Okay.
So him and Jack decided to not take theirs this year. So that means they're going to draw again next year because they didn't take theirs this year. Mm-hmm. From what I understand, so that might not be 100% true, but that's from what I gathered from them. That's what they do. If you don't take it, then the next year you'll get it again.
Okay.
So, but I believe it takes 6 years to get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to start putting in for Iowa and Illinois and maybe even Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota. Go ahead.
Like I said, I want to build like an enclosed trailer that's like a custom camper and travel around the Midwest.
Yeah. Minnesota's an over-the-counter and Illinois is an over-the-counter.
That's what I thought, but one of the guys I work with said it's not.
That Illinois is not?
Yeah.
I thought it was over-the-counter. Minnesota for 100% for sure is over-the-counter.
Yeah.
And I know Kansas you got to put in for too. Kansas has got tons and tons of walk-in land that's private land, but you're allowed to hunt their land.
Okay.
But again, after Chris B put his Kansas 180-inch Kansas deer from like 3 years ago up on YouTube, now it's being overrun now. So
kind of like Iowa. Now everyone wants to go there.
Yeah. And there's, from what I understand, southern Iowa, where like the Midwest whitetail guys hunt, there's not tons of state land down there. I know like the Cedar Rapids, Iowa area, there's tons of state land.
Yeah, I didn't notice a ton of state land, at least when we were driving around the Farm Progress show, but I did take note of like a few spots that I knew were state land.
Yeah, around Des Moines.
Des Moines, Boone, Iowa, but it's just a lot of cornfields, not a whole lot of forested land.
Yeah,
in that area.
Well, I don't know if you watch season 9, if you watch season 9 of Midwest Whitetail, those guys just hunt big brushy fence lines and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't need a lot.
Yeah, I finished that. And now I'm working through the Grit series, which is from Latitude Outdoors, and it's a pretty good series. They're mostly hunting small Michigan bucks, but I like the way they film and edit. It's pretty well put together. So, yeah,
like the Heartland bow hunter.
That's also a good one too. Very well edited.
Very well done.
Yep. Yeah, I really like the really well edited videos. Like they might not be shooting a ton of deer or big deer, but they're just really edited very well.
Yeah.
They're fun to watch.
There's and the guy's from Wisconsin. I actually think he's from the Stevens Point area because he's got a wildlife biology degree, but it's The Rivers Divided is the movie that he made that's on YouTube. I think it's called The Rivers Divided.
Okay.
I forgot what his name is. But he was on the Hunter podcast a couple years ago, and he is all about filming, and his production company does like the action videos and stuff for like Polaris snowmobiles and all that stuff. So
Donnie Vincent,
yes, Donnie
the
Vincent.
rivers divide.
Yeah.
Okay.
But supposedly in that video, it's about this deer. I think the deer's name is Bob. He names his deer one syllable male names. So he's probably got a Steve and
Yeah.
Jim.
Yeah.
So, but I'd like to watch that because supposedly the videography is crazy good.
Yeah.
Have you ever watching Driven with Pat and Nicole before? It used to be an
Yeah.
outdoor. I think they still are on the Outdoor Channel. That guy can produce he's an amazing producer and videographer.
Mm-hmm.
Their stuff is great. Again, you like them or not, their productions are awesome.
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah,
probably one of the few. Go ahead.
I hope to get to that point someday, or just just be able to edit stuff that well. But it just takes time and practice, I think. And I think the more I watch these higher quality productions, the more I can kind of pick up from them. I'm hoping. I wish I had a way to get you guys, you and Mom, one of my GoPros so you could use it this weekend as another camera angle, but that probably won't happen.
Yeah, this year, like I was telling you the other day, we're going to slow way down here. I mean, I don't have another house coming for 6 weeks, and we're finishing up 2 right now. And then I'm going to be going through my shop, putting up all the broken nail guns and stuff that I have on Marketplace, trying to clean that all up and get the mezzanine built and whatnot. But yeah, we're going to get slow. So unfortunately, a couple grand worth of video equipment isn't going to be in the cards until we ramp back up again. Supposedly there's a bunch of houses coming. They're all like in the framing stage right now. So
yeah,
they won't be ready for us to finish for a while yet. But it was a good 5-year run.
Yeah.
If the good guys don't win on Tuesday, I feel like it's going to be really slow.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Is Sean doing any filming at all? Or
No.
Intros? No.
No.
Because he also kind of talked about it too. So
yeah.
Everyone's letting me down.
I know. Sean will want, like, can I have all your old broken stuff and I'll just use that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even the guy from my unit, he said, well, he's going to a wedding next weekend, but he's really going down to Missouri to do some hunting. And he shot a buck this year, and I was like, well, did you film it? Because he's like, oh, I'll film my stuff and give it to you, because he normally films everything. He's like,
yeah.
No, I forgot to film it. So I said, well, film Missouri if you get anything. So, but the guy I work with, his son is filming some stuff with well, I meant to give him a camera. I ended up losing it in the woods, but I gave him the mount, and then he ended up getting some more of the camera. So he's filming his hunts, so maybe I can use some of his stuff and feature it. So
yeah, your mom got me this nice PS3 gaming headset here for $1. She got it at Goodwill, so
it works.
Yeah, actually, I can hear you like crystal clear, and I can actually hear myself talking in the microphone, so I can tell how loud I'm talking and whatnot.
Yeah, it is nice to be able to hear better with the headphones, and then having a nice microphone definitely helps with the audio. So yeah, and then I figured out a way to hook up one of my GoPros as a better webcam, so that it's not all blown out in contrast. So, but
yeah, it's really exciting. It's go time now. Hopefully we can put some more bucks down on the ground, and the chapter of Toothpick, although short-lived, is over. It's kind of bittersweet. It's kind of cool. I requested all the HD photos of him from Tacticam, so they're starting to filter in. So I'm going to pick the best one and do like an 8x10. And when his shoulder mount is done, I'll put the picture by him.
Yeah.
It's just crazy seeing him on the hoof. Obviously, he's a nice deer on camera, but when you see him and when he's standing in front of you, 23.7 yards to be exact. Yeah, it's pretty nice because I had thoughts of not shooting because I couldn't figure out what deer he was, but he was too wide and the mass on his right side is crazy. I can barely get my hand around his right side mass. So he's definitely a 4-year-old deer or better. I thought he was probably 3, but now that I've had my hands on his rack, he's thick. So obviously not as massive as your big one, but he's 4 for sure. Number one, his body was gigantic. So
has big body.
He was just very athletic looking in the beginning of the year before he put on his winter coat. Because like I said, when he had his head down trotting through the woods probably 50 yards from me, and he was really wide in the back, and I'm going, wow, that's a big bodied deer. So
yeah, well, hopefully Mom gets something this weekend, or Sean or Quinn. Anybody would be nice. Get some more deer on the ground and hopefully some footage for me. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
While I'm sitting at drill. So
yeah, I'll do my best with your mom to get as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
I'll have her when we're just seeing deer or whatever, even if we're both just using our phones, getting you some B-roll and whatnot. So
well, even if like she gets something, like how in the hunting shows they always do an interview of them sitting behind the deer, something like that would be nice too.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. But anything else we missed want to talk about? All right.
Trying to think. Nothing. That's the only exciting part when you get this out on, at least you probably get more people listening to it now that there's an actual deer dead that we talked about. So
yeah. I should have it up a lot sooner because now I have better Wi-Fi and it seems to be doing a lot better. It'll upload a lot quicker. So, I mean, I could probably have it up if I do the quick edit tonight. Could have it up tonight, honestly. So, we'll see. Definitely by Friday, though.
So, all
right. Well, thanks for hopping on, and we'll hopefully do it soon with another deer on the ground.
Yep. All right. I'll see you Monday night. I'll keep you posted on what's going on. Like I said, we're leaving like 5 o'clock on Friday to go back over.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
All right.
Take care.
Take care.